Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naishiki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our reading converse, one just offers respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Saraswati, the goddess of learning, Srila Vyasdev, the author, Srila Prabhupada, translator and commentator. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, service unto the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely cured. Loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is raised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So, what can you remember? So this chapter, Narada instructed Vyasadeva, what can you remember about the storyline in brief of this chapter so that we can focus in? We have 5 verses today so far. Yes. Can you give me your name reminder too?
Stephen.
Stephen. Okay, thanks.
So as far as I remember, Vyasadeva has just finished compiling the Vedas, and he's a little unhappy. Narada Muni shows up and begins to talk to him about this situation that he's in, explains his backstory a little bit of how he became Narada Muni, and yeah, that's more or less.
That's the gist of it. Thanks. Interesting. Isn't it interesting how Narada Muni is explaining his story, how he came to Krishna consciousness, And he came under very humble, apparently insignificant circumstances, by chance, it seemed like, right? But of course, hopefully you've been around long enough to get it, to understand that nothing happens by chance. But everything has its purpose behind it, by our activities and by our desires, things are happening to us. Okay, so he had a humble situation at home. He didn't have a father present with him. His mother was just a maidservant. And where she was, quote unquote, working, where she was serving, the sages came during the rainy season. And they stayed for 4 months during the rainy season. Narada just became attracted to them by serving them. He got the opportunity to serve them, and he got the opportunity even to take remnants one time. That's all. This was these activities of devotional service. They may appear inconsequential, but they're very consequential. They have a permanent effect. Can anyone think of a verse from the Gita that backs up that statement that everything we do has a permanent effect? Oh yeah, what does that mean? Sorry, there's no microphone close, but there's one.
Gosh.
You can say it in your own words. You open it.
I know it. Why can't I think of it? Well, a little advanced on this path to protect them from the most dangerous type of fear. That's the last part.
Yeah, that's a very important part. A little advancement will protect one from the most. And whatever one does, it's for your permanent benefit. Permanent benefit. So all of those people who are eating Krishna lunch every day, it's for their permanent benefit. They're thinking they're just getting a good lunch, but they don't really realize the benefits they're getting. And even if they are unfortunate enough to only eat it one time, it still has its permanent effect. And they'll get another opportunity to somehow or other engage in devotional service again and again and again and again and again until they come to Krishna or whatever the circumstances in the future. Yeah, okay.
Now breadcrumb on us stay, Pachivai Nivijite, swallow up on my Piasidon,
Swalpa, just a little bit. Okay.
In this endeavor, there is no loss or domination, but a little advancement on this path to protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Domination means decrease.
Thank you. So even a little advancement saves one from the greatest type of fear, and there's no loss. Can you think of something else? Can you give me another example of something else that you've experienced that there's never any diminution or any loss? Some other example. There must be some other example. Yes? Yes, this is that part.
Devotional service.
Okay, good. It's a good thing you said that, because I was thinking, what is he gonna say? Can you think of anything else besides devotional service where there's no loss or diminution and everything is a permanent result? Love. Good luck on that one. Real love, but you're right, real love, yes. Bridget?
The Mahamantra,
The mantra, yes, chanting the Mahamantra.
is that the same as devotional service?
That's the same as
Oh,
devotional service. Well, that's okay, it's in the category, but it's okay. You're on the right path. Did you have something you wanted to add? You're just scratching.
I think from Krishna's side,
Okay.
there's no loss the way he sees it.
Oh, from Krishna's side, there's no lot. Yeah, because it's why? Because he's neutral, ready to reciprocate with you as we desire. Okay, let's go into our verses so we get something done on our schedule. We're on text 32. Omaginati Mirandasya, Dinamina, Salakaya, Chaksu, Tanjina, Tasmai, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so here's the first 32. Etat samsuchitam brahmam. Let's do the Sanskrit. Okay. There we go. Now we'll do it again. Etat samsuchitam brahmam.
Etat samsuchitam brahmam.
Tapatraya chikishitam.
Tapatraya chikishitam.
Keep in mind that tapatraya. We'll get to the translation. Yad Ishvare Bhagavati.
Yad Ishvare Bhagavati.
Karma Brahmani Bhavitam.
Karma Brahmani Bhavitam.
Etat samsuchitam brahmam.
Etat samsuchitam brahmam.
Tapatraya chikishitam.
Tapatraya chikishitam.
Yad Ishvare Bhagavati.
Yad Ishvare Bhagavati.
Karma Brahmani Bhavitam.
Karma Brahmani Bhavitam.
Your turn. Etat samsuchitam brahmam. Tapatraya chikishitam. Ishvare Bhagavati. Karma Brahmani Bhavitam. Etat samsuchitam brahmam. Tapatraya chikishitam. Yad Ishvare Bhagavati. Karma Brahmani Bhavitam. Someone from this side of the room? Etat samsuchitam brahmam. Tapatraya
chikishitam.
Yad Ishvare Bhagavati. Karma Brahmani Bhavitam. Very good, you did a great job. Etat, this much. Samsuchitam, decided by the learned. Brahman, O Brahman Vyas. Tapatraya, 3 kinds of miseries. What are they? What are those 3 kinds of miseries? Stephen?
By other living entities and the ones caused by nature.
One's caused by our own mind, one's caused by our other people, other living entities, not just people, and like mosquitoes too sometimes. And what was the third one? Nature, yeah, hurricanes, other things. Okay, chikichitam, remedial measures. Yat, what? Ishvare, the supreme controller. Bhagavati, unto the personality of Godhead. Karma, one's prescribed activity. Brahmani, unto the great. Bhavitam, dedicated. O Brahman Vyasadev, it is decided by the learned that the best remedial measure for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to the service of the Supreme Lord, a personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. Let's say it together. O Brahman Vyasdev, it is decided by the learned that the best remedial measure for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to the service of the Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead. So in your own words, what did this verse just give us information about? Say it a little louder, please.
Suffering.
How to get rid of suffering. The best way to get rid of suffering is what? How is it?
Devotional service.
Devotional service.
Dedicated.
Dedicated devotional service. That's activity. Now, well, okay, I won't say that yet. Okay, let's read the purport. Can somebody start the purport? Yes. Please and thank you.
Sri Narada Muni personally experienced that the most feasible and practical way to open the path of salvation or get relief from all miseries of life is to hear submissively the transcendental activities of the Lord from the right and bona fide sources.
There's a lot right there in that sentence. What did you get from that very first sentence? Yes, Jonathan.
One quick detail about it is that sources is plural.
Sources. Anyone will do. Just checking.
It says, from the right and bona fide sources, plural. So they have to be right and they have to be bona fide, but there's more than just one.
What does that mean to you? That there's more than one source. Which is just
That
what they're saying, but what does that mean? How do you understand that?
there's a lot of different teachers that we can take on, but
Okay.
to go further back one step, we have to be attentive, submissive. We have to be ready to receive knowledge. We have to be in the right place, and then when the student's ready, the teacher will appear.
Has anyone experienced that even if you weren't ready and the teacher came? Yeah. It happens that way also. Okay, but sources, let's go to sources. Let's talk about sources. What do you understand by hearing from different sources? Bruce, what you have there?
Something that's authoritative.
Anything specific? Yes.
It's like the Bhagavatam book and the Bhagavatam person.
Very good. Yes. Bhagavatam book, Bhagavatam person, Gita, stories from the ancient scriptures, Mahabharata, also so many of these different sources. And then there's different personalities who can explain those sources, bona fide sources. Okay. You can try a few more sentences and see how much I interrupt.
This is the only remedial process. The entire material existence is full of miseries.
Anybody want to protest that statement there? The entire, yes, go right ahead. Object.
This world is, yes, a place of misery. However, there is a place you will find happiness.
I know what you're going to say. What?
In Hawaii.
Have you been there yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, okay, but here, if you just came walking in the room for the first time, right? And you hear the sentence, the entire material existence is full of miseries. The mind might protest a little bit, don't you think? Because it's not that everybody's always 24 hours a day walking around miserable. There are a few of them, but it's not. There is pleasure, but what's the qualification or characteristic of the pleasure that most people or most of us even experience? Jackson? Yeah, Jackson.
It tends to be subjugated to attachment. We receive our pleasure in this relationship with attachment.
We receive our pleasure in relation to attachment. That's a very philosophical answer for analyzing pleasure. Yes, okay. Other things about the pleasure, or even I don't remember your name, but you was mentioning love as an eternal blissful thing, but even love, it's so temporary oftentimes in the material world. One time a person can be madly in love with somebody, and just a little bit, just a few circumstances can change, and that love can turn to hate, can turn to repulsion, it can turn to whatever. And even if it stays in the heart as a feeling of love, there's always the fear that the relationship is going to be broken, by outside forces. Yeah. So anyway, but one major important concept to understand is that the material existence has pleasure, but the pleasure compared to the pleasure that you can receive from the spiritual world and in devotional service, that pleasure is not comparable. It's insignificant, you could say, insignificant. Whereas the pleasure that the advanced devotees can reach and do reach is unlimitedly increasing. Can you think of a Sanskrit word? Okay, 1 second. Can you think of a Sanskrit word that means unlimitedly, that the pleasure is unlimitedly increasing? It's not just one word, it's a few words. Advaita or Jonathan, whoever. Okay. Ananda Buddhi Vardhanam. In Lord Chaitanya's prayer, he's explaining, thank you. He's explaining in the Shikshastika prayer that the pleasure of devotional service is unlimited. Not only is it unlimited, but it's not just stagnantly unlimited. It's always increasingly unlimited. It's always increasingly unlimited. We get to hook into that. But, did you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, I don't know, I've noticed that since focusing on spiritual life, that I don't experience any miseries anymore because my mindset and the way I perceive reality is different now, to where it's like, I don't see it as a misery. I see it as like, I'm unconditionally happy. So regardless, I know that I'm not attached to anything. I know that everything I have will eventually go away. And so I love it while I have it, but I know that it's going to eventually fade away.
Yeah, thank you. In knowledge. There, you're situated in knowledge, and you're remembering Krishna. May your remembrance always stay nice and fixed like that. We need to skip down a little bit because we have other verses. So how about, and it's all just one big long paragraph. So how about going down to the bottom? Just a few sentences up from the last bit. The best thing is, after all, to get relief from all material miseries. Did you find that spot? I'll start reading until you find it, okay? The best thing is, after all, to get relief from all material activities and engage oneself completely in hearing the transcendental pastimes of the Lord.
But in case of the absence of such an opportunity, one should try to engage in the service of the Lord everything for which one has specific attraction, and that is the way of peace and prosperity. The word samsuchitam in this stanza is also significant. One should not think for a moment that the realization of Narada was a childish imagination only. It is not like that. It is so realized by the expert and erudite scholars, and that is the real import of the word samsuchitam.
In other words, other people have that same realization and understanding also, that that the real way to get free from the miseries, as you were just explaining, is to engage in devotional service. By engaging in devotional service, and did you catch that part where he said, but in the absence of such an opportunity, one should try to engage in the service of the Lord, everything for which one has a specific attraction. So in other words, we all have different attractions and different likes and dislikes and talents and ways that we can express our devotion to Krishna. So take that and use it. If someone's particularly attracted to memorizing verses, you have my envy and blessings. And if someone's particularly attracted to chanting and singing bhajans, go for it. And if someone's attracted to learning the different musical instruments, the harmonium, the mridanga, whatever, go for it. If someone has spent years studying whatever media presentation, use that media presentation advertising Krishna consciousness. Just whatever it is that we're attracted to, take it and use it in Krishna's service. Take it and use it in Krishna's service, so that our attraction and attention is focused on the Lord. It's there. It's bona fide. Let's go to our next verse, and we'll just read this English to the translation. Next verse. Text 33. I'll start. O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing? What does that mean, and why is it there? Mr. Brihat Padanga. What is why? What's the context? Does not a thing, so this is Nanda saying to Vyasadeva, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by the very same thing? Hang in there.
Actions in the material world have caused us to be bound here, but if we do those same actions for Krishna, it will free us.
That's exactly it. So activities in the materialistic activities are actually the very source of us getting bound to the material world and being miserable and suffering and enjoying, theoretically enjoying, the different results of those activities. And now Narada just told Vyas, but do those activities, do those same activities as dedicated service to the Lord, whatever you might be attracted to, do that thing. And therefore he's saying, does not a thing applied therapeutically benefit someone as opposed to having it just haphazard? Okay, you want to read a little bit in the purport, please?
An expert physician treats his patient with a therapeutic diet. For example, milk preparations sometimes cause disorder of the bowels, but the very same milk converted into curd and mixed with some other remedial ingredients cures such disorders. Similarly, the threefold miseries of material existence cannot be mitigated simply by material activities. Such activities have to be spiritualized, just as by fire, iron is made red hot, and thereby the action of fire begins. Similarly, the material conception of a thing is at once changed as soon as it is put into the service of the Lord. That is the secret of spiritual success.
Right, so that's the essence of the instruction that's being given here, this point, which is a very important point. And it is all the whole, that concept is what makes devotional service attractive to everybody in all different walks of life and stages of life and things, is that activity done for the service of the Lord, devotional service, has a curing effect on the miseries. It cures the miseries of material existence. It purifies the mind and the heart, and one sees things in a different way, just like you were explaining. You're doing theoretically or whatever you're doing. We're doing similar things that we used to do. We used to eat, we used to sing, we used to dance, so many things. But now, because it's all focused on Krishna, it has a total different effect on the mind and the heart. And it's not that somebody has to tell you, oh, you're much different now. You're experiencing a pleasure now. No, we feel it ourselves. You think of a verse that confirms that from the Bhagavad Gita, the 9th chapter, by any chance? That we're feeling our pleasure. It's our own. It doesn't have to be certified by somebody else that you're getting happy, you're getting relief from material misery. We're seeing it. It's our own realization. Shushukam kartam abdayam. Yes, that we're feeling it ourselves. It's not an outside source. Okay, next verse, translation. Same point being made. Would you like to read that verse, please?
Thus, when all a man's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, Those very activities which caused his perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work.
Yeah, so, wanna explain it? It's just a repetition of the point made before, so you can use your own words.
Yeah, the very thing that keeps us trapped in the material world is what loosens the bondage that's being talked about here. It like untangles it.
Untangles it, yeah.
Yeah, and it organizes it, and then
Yeah.
then it's used again.
Advaita Prabhu.
Have a thorn in our foot.
A thorn in our foot.
Yeah, we take the other thorn to take out what's in the foot.
Yeah.
But we have to make sure we don't end up with two thorns in the foot.
Good point, yeah. Yeah, so major point is the difference between materialistic activities that cause bondage and devotional service activities which might appear to be very similar, eating and eating. Let's take that example. The difference is is what they're being done for. What's our mindset? What we're dedicating. If we're eating just for our own pleasure, you know, whatever we feel like, whenever we want, whatever, that is going to cause bondage. And if we're trying to mold our mind to serve Krishna with love, then we're cooking and preparing things for his satisfaction. We're taking the prasadam. We don't even consider it taking prasadam. We consider it honoring prasadam. We're honoring prasadam because prasadam is that mercy of the Lord that he's giving us a facility to even become purified, even in this basic way of maintaining our needs. The body needs to eat. It needs nutrition, but in this purified way. So it's only a question of the change in consciousness. Such a simple point and such a dramatic point too. The second paragraph in the purport, the summary is there. Yeah, there. Would Bridget, you want to read that? Here, pass on the mic. The summary is.
The summary is that one has to first of all seek the association of pure devotees who not only are learned in the Vedanta, but are self-realized souls and unalloyed,
correct.
Unalloyed devotees of Lord Shri Krishna, the personality Godhead. In that association, the neophyte devotees must render love and service physically and mentally without reservation. This service attitude will induce the great souls to be more favorable in bestowing their mercy, which injects the neophyte with all the transcendental qualities of the pure devotee.
Great, thanks. Okay, so who can summarize that in their own words? What Bridget just read? Some points that might have stuck out to you. Yes.
The more quantity and quality of service you do for great devotees, the more they will bestow blessings.
Yeah, and what was the interesting word that Prabhupada used that you wouldn't have thought of the blessings, how they're transmitted? Injected. Interesting, isn't it? Injected. In other words, just like what do you think of injections? You think of, vaccines or whatever they are, right? But anyway, whatever. Here's the little tube, here's everything outside. It has to get inside your vein and inside the body. It has to be forced in there by that push of that injection, So Srila Prabhupada also uses that word in Nectar of Devotion when he talks about that the second class and first class devotees, those higher advanced devotees, they can inject bhakti through the ears. They can inject it into the heart of the living entity through the ears. by hearing from that transcendental sound vibration of pure devotees who have realized and have developed their loving relationship with the Lord, their words, the vibration of their words has a potency beyond than just comprehending what it means. It has a potency of purifying the heart and instilling love for Krishna. So therefore, we're encouraged all the time. We're encouraged, hear from the pure devotees, hear from Srila Prabhupada, hear from the advanced devotees, so that more and more opportunity of that love can be injected through your ear holes. That sounds gross, doesn't it? but that transcendental love is painless, and it's bliss producing through the ears to the heart. Okay, we have some more verses. 35. If you have comments or questions, you feel free to ask them. Okay, we're on 35 right now. Someone like to read? Bruce, go right ahead, thanks.
Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor.
Can someone who has a phone on them look up concomitant really quick and give us an official definition of concomitant factor? Because we all have an idea what it means, but let's hear what the official. You got it there already? Wow.
Yeah. Naturally accompanying or associated.
Wow. Naturally. It naturally comes along with. So what's coming along? Loving service to the Lord comes along naturally when what's called knowledge. When one has knowledge about Krishna, the more we know about Krishna, natural accompanying factor is love for Krishna. The more we know him, the more we love him. Interesting, isn't it? The less we love him, the less what?
The knowledge is
the knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. So you explain it then.
It's like that verse in the second chapter of this canto that Jnana Vairagya, how does it go? Anyway, yeah, that knowledge and renunciation automatically come by practicing bhakti. So knowledge and renunciation are the concomitant factors.
In other words, one doesn't have to have knowledge to love Krishna. If one loves Krishna, then knowledge of Krishna comes as a concomitant factor. And it still holds some weight that the more you know about Krishna, the more you love Krishna. I just have to defend myself. Okay, thank you though. Thanks for pointing that out. Let's read into the purport there. Someone besides Bruce who's very eager today. Oh, Kunti, how about you? Would you like to read? Pass your mic. To read into the purport a little bit there.
The general and popular notion is that by discharging fruitive work in terms of the direction of the scriptures, one becomes perfectly able to acquire transcendental knowledge for spiritual realization. Bhakti Yoga is considered by some to be another form of karma, but factually Bhakti Yoga is above both karma and jnana. Bhakti Yoga is independent of jnana or karma. On the other hand, jnana and karma are dependent on Bhakti Yoga.
Okay, so let's untangle that so we get that clear in our mind. We don't have it backwards like some. Okay, can you give us a little explanation, Kunti? In your own words, what the point is, or how this point is important?
Well, because some people are interested in the karma yoga because it is recommended in the scriptures, and some people are interested in jnana. And then they reject bhakti because they think that it's incomplete in some way, but actually it's the contrary. In bhakti, you get knowledge, and you get free from the results of your karma. So it includes both processes and also gets you back to Godhead. Whereas jnana and karma, they keep you attached to the material world.
Right. And then another little phrase that's important in there is that actually even karma and jnana are dependent on bhakti. There has to be some loving, devotional tinge of loving devotion in there, or else one doesn't actually even get the fruit of karma and bhakti. But bhakti is not dependent on karma and jnana. It's not dependent on knowledge or activities or enunciation. Bhakti is svatantra. It's independent. It's independent, and it's complete. Okay. I'm just going to read the last sentence in the purport. The conclusion is that a devotee engaged in unalloyed service to the Lord. You need to look up unalloyed too, so we get a clear idea. The conclusion, a devotee engaged in unalloyed service to the Lord, specifically in hearing and chanting of his transcendental glories, becomes simultaneously spiritually enlightened by the divine grace, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Simultaneously, by doing devotional service, one becomes enlightened. And unalloyed means?
Complete and unreserved.
Complete and unreserved. It's not mixed. In other words, it's understood that as we enter the Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he describes, we enter the threshold of the door of bhakti. It's not that we're expected to be unalloyed, pure devotees from the get-go. But by coming in and hearing from the pure devotees and executing devotional service, then one gets that opportunity, and gradually the desires, the material desires that we have, and even the desires for spiritual progress, all of that becomes cleansed in the heart or purified, so that it's not that we're desiring spiritual progress for our own aggrandizement, but we're desiring spiritual progress and developing a love for the Lord, so that we'll be able to serve Him nicer, or more pure, with more love and more devotion. So that is the point. Becomes simultaneously spiritually enlightened by the divine grace. It comes by engaging in the Lord's service. Okay, now last verse, 36. Again, now the point is being made in different ways, that karmic activities done for one, previous activities that we did for our own satisfaction, whether it was school or work or relationships or whatever, those activities cause so much bondage in the material world. Now, as devotees, with hearing from the right source and hearing from pure devotees with spiritual understanding and love of God in their hearts, we might be doing similar activities. We might still be pursuing our careers. We might still be engaged in work. We might still, but now with our mindset changed, our activities are dedicated to please the Lord. Even though they appear to be the same activities, they're completely liberating for us. They're not binding. They're liberating for us. They're the source of developing love of God and getting out of the material world. So this point is being made in different ways, and it's being made one more time here. Carmen, can you read? Is that okay? We speak into a Q-tip. No, microphone.
While performing duties according to the order of Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one constantly remembers him, his names, and his quality.
So again, he's talking about the difference. And would someone like to read in the purport? Jonathan, can you read in the purport?
An expert devotee of the Lord can mold his life in such a way that while performing all kinds of duties, either for this or for the next life, he can constantly remember the Lord's name, fame, qualities, etc. The order of the Lord is distinctly there in the Bhagavad Gita. One should work only for the Lord in all spheres of life. In every sphere of life, the Lord should be situated as the proprietor. According to the Vedic rites, even in the worship of some demigods like Indra, Brahma, Sarvaswati, and Ganesh, the system is that in all circumstances, Shishi Gurnitai Ki Jai, in all circumstances, the representation of Vishnu must be there as Jnanasvara, or the controlling power of such sacrifices. It is recommended that a particular demigod be worshipped for a particular purpose, but still the presence of Vishnu is compulsory in order to make the function proper.
Okay, so there's a culture there of worshiping the demigods that perhaps as Westerners we're not so familiar with at all. And it's like, huh? What's all that about? So can somebody explain what's going on here so that we can grasp the point? Yes, Mr. Jonathan.
Just kind of simplifies it, basically just saying we should be Vaishnavas.
That summarizes it nicely. But we're trying to understand what is this point of worshiping the demigods, so that we can, because it comes up a lot in Vedic literature, and it's not a familiar concept with us. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hi, Krishna.
So, Krishna Vishnu has set up the system already with demigods have a particular purpose. So it makes sense to kind of include them as it's already their duty, but also to include Krishna because that is the center and the focus of our heart.
Very good. Nice summary. So to elaborate on that a little bit too. So the way that the whole system, the material system is organized according to bona fide Vedic literature, that if somebody has material desires, there are different personalities often in charge of different aspects of life that can, if being pleased by worshiping them, they can award benedictions that fulfill those desires. So when you think about it in an impartial way, by worshiping the demigods, those persons in charge of different qualities and powers and aspects of a happy life, you could say, one becomes bound by those benedictions. For example, someone might, and it's quite culturally common that in someone under the Vedic system, they're worshiping the goddess Saraswati, especially when they're a student in their student years. Saraswati is the goddess of learning. So they're worshiping her to please her so that they can get good marks on the test, they can understand the thing, and they can get a good job, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what do they, and so let's just say she's giving them some benedictions and they're great learning this or that, or expert in their field of this or that. And what do they get from that? They get continual birth and death, because their activities have brought them. It might be a more comfortable situation, a more exalted situation, a more prestigious situation, or whatever. But they're getting birth and death, ultimately. There's an example that Srila Prabhupada, as far as I've understood, I've only seen it one time Prabhupada give this example in Sri Upanishad. The example, he compares the material world, and this is done often, to a coconut, to those big green coconuts, not the brown little ones inside, but the big green coconuts. And inside the big green coconut, there's probably like 2 or 3 inches of just rough shell, right? And then inside is that coconut, the brown coconut where the cream is and the water, the coconut waters. So inside that coconut shell, that's like the example of Lord Brahma, his manifesting from the navel pit of Mahavishnu, and he's sitting in the water. So he comes up from, so the coconut is not, the coconut water is never 100% full inside that little thing. It's always a little space. So Lord Brahma comes and he's manifested the universes on that lotus stem, higher planetary systems, lower planetary systems, more pleasure, more suffering, et cetera, et cetera. And so people who pray to the demigods to be elevated in material activities, they're advancing, they're going up. It's still inside that coconut. So if you're up on the upper floor inside the coconut, or if you're on the lower floor, more miserable suffering inside that coconut, is it really progress? Because you haven't broken out of the material creation to go to the spiritual world where life is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. So you've made progress inside that coconut sphere. It's not really progress. That's the ultimate point behind or understanding how worship of the demigods is not towards one's best interest. Real worship of the Supreme Lord is for one's best interest because it brings us outside that shell. Yes, what would you like to add?
As you were speaking, I was having kind of a realization of the purpose of bhakti is to always be with our best friend Krishna, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense that and also the source of suffering in the material world is that we're trying to enjoy without Krishna. And so it makes sense that we would go to the demigod to help carry out Krishna's mission in the world, Srila Prabhupada's mission, but also we want to always have him with us, and that then protects us from the suffering of the
That's a very good point.
material
Thanks.
world.
Yeah. So even we can pray to the demigods for assistance in our devotional service too, as long as we understand who's the real boss. Yeah. Okay, other comments or questions or discussions from this series of verses? Yes.
I have a question that's kind of related to this, or maybe just to get your thoughts on it. So the mood of our sampradaya is we still have some awe, reverence, and great respect for Vishnu and Krishna. But we're also kind of taught to make Krishna our friend, and that's part of the process of devotional service. And Buddha Vrindavan is very sweet love, and not to imitate, but that's kind of the goal. And then so with the demigods, we talk about worship also, but is it wrong to kind of think of them as friends also, or how to what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's not there in the relationship with the demigod. I mean, okay. It's not there, a friendly relationship, because the difference of status, and realization and powers and everything is so vast, that it's worship implies awe and reverence, so one has got that formal, you want to be on your best behavior so that they can smile on you and et cetera, give you the benediction. So that's even that friendly relationship with Krishna that's exhibited in his Vrindavan Leela activities, that's not there in most of his other incarnations either, in Krishna's incarnations. That's one of the when you're reading your nectar devotion, and it talks about the 64 characteristics of the Lord. The last 4 characteristics of the Lord, that he has intimate relationships with loving devotees, that's one of Krishna's unique characteristics. So you were right when you were saying how that friendly relationship with Krishna, as exhibited in Vrindavan, in his Vrindavan Leela, that's there to be honored, respected, and stuff, but it doesn't come, easily. It comes with qualification and purification. Yes.
So your point led me to another question. I feel like it's important, is that his other incarnations, are those eternal spiritual identities in the spiritual world also, like Ram and
Yes.
Parshuram? Okay, cool. That's interesting.
Yes.
And
it's explained. If you look at Srimad Bhagavatam first canto, the dusk jacket cover on the first canto, the picture there, of the lotus flower, and then all the little universes, and there you have little names under, Vamana, Trivikram, all of those all of Krishna's incarnations have a planet that they rule over eternally in the Vaikuntha planets. And then of all of those different planets and incarnations and everything, and then the topmost situation and the biggest one is Goloka Vrindavan. He has his Vrindavan pastimes.
Okay, that's awesome. I was starting to think of it or feel of it. I'm not sure if that's right. That if Krishna is the origin, then his Vrindavan pastimes are so different because it's like he's unveiling his true
They are.
self, the heart.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And also it's not, don't be narrow-minded and think that it's wrong to be attracted to Lord Ram, or it's wrong to be attracted. Lord, we talked about, I remember talking about this in our last class a couple weeks back. There's a planet where Kurma, the tortoise incarnation, he's in charge, and he has hundreds and millions of unlimited devotees who are totally in love with him in his form of Kurma, in his activities of Kurma as a tortoise. Now, might be a little inconceivable at this point in our journey of self-realization, but he's there, he's attractive. And just another little point on those forms of the Lord, the unlimited forms of the Lord. Krishna incarnates in every species of life, not just human life, but he incarnates in every species of life just to attract living entities to worship him. Amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, time. Shima.